Okay, so I thought I would do a side-by-side of the Google Pixel 10 Pro XL and the new iPhone 17 Pro Max in the cosmic orange finish here. I have been a Pixel user for a long time. I actually told myself I would switch back to the iPhone. I had the original iPhone. I had it up to the 4, I think, when they introduced USB-C. And they did that, I think, a couple of iterations ago. But to be honest, Pixel up their game with the 9 Pro XL. And I found that phone to be really quite good. And so I upgraded to the 10, the Pro 10 XL, or the 10 Pro XL. And I got that about a couple months ago now, or maybe a month ago, through AT&T. But I also picked up one of these because I am genuinely thinking about switching back to iPhone. And it's kind of a hard call, to be honest. These are both great phones. I have been using the 10, the Pixel, for just over a month now, and it is great. You know, it's there are some shortcomings of it. I feel like the processor is a little bit sluggish at times. But in general, it's pretty good. It does most of what I want it to do. And the iPhone is sort of getting accustomed to a whole new ecosystem. I have an iPad, and I have a MacBook. I have a Mac Mini as well. So I'm definitely in the Apple ecosystem. But using a phone on a day-to-day basis is definitely a little bit different. And I've been a little bit frustrated with my iPad, to be honest, with the updates not always going through. You know, every time I go to it, all of my apps need to be updated. They don't seem to update in the background for whatever reason. And so getting used to iOS on an iPhone is going to be a challenge, I think. But, you know, all of the apps that I'm used to are available on iOS, or at least most of them. I am a pretty heavy Google user, so maybe the Google integration with Google Workspace is not going to be quite as good. So that's going to be an issue, but I'm willing to give it a try. So in terms of the hardware, the iPhone 17 does feel a little bit chunkier in the hand. It's a little bit wider than the Pixel. It's also, I feel, slightly fatter, especially when you factor in the camera bump. And the camera bump has a few different levels to it. So when you place it on a flat surface, it does have that wobble. Whereas the Pixel, of course, has this more elegant camera bump, and it falls sort of flat on the surface, doesn't sort of move around as you tap on it. Now, I have always used my phones in a case. Cases like these. This is a Spigen slim case. This is a cheap one off Amazon. This one's actually a little bit chunkier than the Pixel one. But when you put it in a case like this, it is, first of all, you don't get that unevenness on a flat surface, but it does make it quite a bit chunkier, especially around the camera bump. This one has like a rubber rim that goes out quite a bit to protect those cameras. Of course, you have some extra buttons on the iPhone. You have this camera button, and I think this one is assignable to a function, the one on the left, and then you have your up and down volume control. So another thing that's drawing back to the iPhone is the Apple Watch. And this is a Google Pixel Watch 2. It's not a bad device, lasts about a day in terms of the battery. It has some useful functionality, mainly the notifications, so I don't miss them on my phone. But I just feel that the Apple Watch is a much more robust ecosystem and device. and the Ultra is kind of cool. So I find myself not wearing the Pixel Watch that often. I'm honestly not sure if that would be the same with the Apple Watch or whether I would get into the habit of using it more. But it's something I'm interested in trying out. And of course, the other thing is the Pixel Buds. So these are the Pixel Buds Pro 2, the latest ones. They're actually really good. They actually look pretty nice in the ear. These are the AirPods Pro 2, the new ones. I haven't actually opened those yet or tried them, but looking forward to that. I think I prefer the look of the Pixel Buds, but I've heard really good things about these AirPods Pro 2 with the noise cancellation. So let me just turn these phones over. Here's the Google Pixel. This is the iPhone. Of course, one thing that's added onto the Pixel this year is the Pixel Snap, which is essentially compatible with MagSafe, which is Apple's version of this. I think that was kind of a big draw to Apple in the past, but now Pixel have upped their game. As many people have said, one of the challenges now is that the Pixel's gotten closer to the iPhone, and the iPhone in some ways has gotten closer to the Pixel in terms of, I think, like notifications and some other features. Of course, they don't have the AI features yet in terms of Apple Intelligence. So they do have some, but they're not very good. So, that's another difference. There are some software features that I really love on the Pixel. One is call screening. You can get an AI to screen your calls, and that works really well. It can talk to whoever is on the other line, and you can see that transcribed in real time and decide whether to answer the call or not. I don't think Apple has that function. That's incredibly handy. Of course, you have Google Gemini built in. I use that somewhat. I have a lot of home automations, and I'm not on the Apple HomeKit ecosystem, mainly on Nest. And so that's going to be another pain point, I think, in terms of the iPhone and just getting into a rhythm with it. It does have some cool apps that you don't get on the Pixel. For example, GarageBand. I've never really used this on my Mac, but it has things like this where you can play a keyboard or turn that into a piano. I'm not very familiar with this interface, but there's certainly a lot you can do with this. You can change this to, let's change it to a classic grand piano. So I feel like there's a lot of cool stuff for creators on here. You also have iMovie. I've played around with the camera very quickly, and it does seem to be nice. I'm just touching the surface in terms of the features here, but the video does seem to be pretty nice. Certainly a lot of options, but I would say that I'm not a power user. I'm one of these people that has to get the best phone, regardless of, kind of every year. I think there are a lot of people like that, actually. Just because you use your phone so much, you can kind of justify spending $1,000 a year on a phone. Unfortunately, that's how much they cost these days, but you do get a lot of features for your money. So, that's kind of the current state of play. I'm still getting used to the iPhone. I did this move to iOS app on my Pixel. And so that copied over all the apps that I have on my Android, or at least most of them. But I have to go into them individually and view in the App Store and then download. So, there's a lot of work to do there. One of the things I do miss is that I can't go back by swiping left on the side, whereas in the Pixel, that's something that I do all the time. So for example, you can just swipe on the side, and of course I have to tap up here instead, which is a little bit inconvenient. So I think there's a lot of small user interface things that are different, that kind of lock you into one ecosystem or the other. Not a big deal. I'm sure Apple has some things that work really well for it versus a Pixel. But, I will conclude with saying that I think it's actually a really hard decision between these two. They're both really good phones, clearly. And they're pretty close to each other in terms of feature set and, some of the devices that you can get around them. So I will give an update maybe in like a month or so to tell you how I got on and if I'm going to stick to the new iPhone. One last thing is that the Pixel 10 Pro XL moved to a all eSIM configuration, so there's no more physical SIM, at least in the US, and the iPhone is similar. Actually, one big gripe I have with the Pixel, and it's not really against the Pixel, but it's because I bought it on AT&T through their upgrade program, and it is locked to AT&T. And I used to use my UK SIM card in my Pixel 9 Pro XL, to be able to receive text for two-factor authentication, that kind of thing. And also, of course, when I'm in the UK. And because it's locked, I can't do that. First of all, I'd have to transfer that UK physical SIM to an eSIM. And then because it is not AT&T, I can't use it. So this Apple, I bought straight from Apple. It's fully unlocked. So I could use my UK SIM in this. But then I'd be stuck with a Google Pixel that is locked to AT&T, which I'm not sure what I would do with. So it's going to be a hard call. But that's where I'm at. And thanks for watching.